The room was electric, the kind of tension you could almost taste in the air. Cameras rolled, reporters whispered, and millions of Americans were tuned in live. The hearing wasn't supposed to be explosive. It was a standard session on economic policy. But when Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known for her sharp wit and fiery comebacks, leaned forward, pointed her finger at Senator John Kennedy, and snapped, "Sit down, boy," the entire chamber froze. Gasps rippled through the room. Some laughed nervously, others stared wide-eyed. No one expected what would happen next. For a brief moment, Kennedy's face betrayed nothing, and no anger, no embarrassment, no smug smile. Just silence. The cameras zoomed in on him, waiting. Everyone expected him to lash back, to throw an insult sharper than the one he had just endured. That was, after all, what politics had become, trading barbs like heavyweight punches in a boxing ring. But Kennedy didn't move. He simply straightened his back, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the storm brewing across from him. "Ma'am," he finally said, his southern drawl steady and almost gentle, "I'll sit down when the people of this country no longer need someone standing up for them." The chamber erupted, not in jeers, not in chaos, but in stunned silence. Even X's expression flickered, a flash of realization cutting through her sharp exterior. Kennedy didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult her back. Instead, he shifted the conversation. He leaned into the microphone and began speaking, and not to her, not to the committee, but to the millions of Americans watching from their living rooms. He spoke about his upbringing in Louisiana, about growing up in a family that didn't have much but always believed in dignity. He told the story of his father working long nights just to keep food on the table, and his mother reminding him that no matter how tough life got, respect was never something you gave away cheaply. He spoke about the farmers in his district who struggled through droughts, the small business owners who worked 16-hour days just to make payroll, and the veterans who felt forgotten after giving everything for their country. "These are not games to me," Kennedy said, his voice firm now. "These hearings, these policies, these arguments, they're not about scoring points or throwing insults. They're about real people out there, watching us, praying we'll do right by them. And I'll be damned if I let this place turn into a circus while their lives hang in the balance." You could feel the weight of his words. Even those who didn't agree with his politics had to respect the humanity behind them. A few senators shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, reminded perhaps for the first time in a long while that their duty wasn't about theater but service. A, known for her confidence, crossed her arms and leaned back. For once, she didn't have a quick comeback. The cameras caught the flicker of reflection on her face. She wasn't defeated, but she wasn't dismissive either. Kennedy had turned the tables, not by out-shouting her, but by rising above the insult altogether. By the end of the session, the clip was everywhere. News outlets replayed it non-stop. Social media exploded with reactions. Some mocked X's words, others defended her. But the part that truly resonated was Kennedy's response. A farmer in Iowa wrote on Facebook, "I don't care what party you're in, that man just spoke the truth." A young college student tweeted, "For the first time, I felt like a politician was talking to us, not at each other." What Kennedy had done, without even realizing it, was remind America of something it desperately needed. Dignity in disagreement. He didn't humiliate X's. He didn't turn it into a fight. He turned it into a moment of clarity. The next day, Kennedy held a town hall in his home state. The crowd was larger than usual, filled with people who had seen the viral moment. A woman stood up, tears in her eyes, and said, "Senator, my husband's been laid off twice this year. We've lost our home. And when I saw you on TV, I finally felt like someone remembered us. Thank you." Kennedy, who had faced many political battles, looked genuinely humbled. He wasn't perfect, and no politician was, but in that moment, he knew something had changed. He had struck a chord deeper than politics. He had reminded people that leadership wasn't about ego, it was about heart. And perhaps the most surprising part, X's later released a statement. It wasn't an apology, not exactly. But it was something rare. She wrote, "Senator Kennedy and I may not agree on most issues, but we both care about the people we serve. For that, I respect him." The nation had witnessed a clash that could have spiraled into another headline filled with bitterness and division. Instead, it became something else entirely, a reminder that even in the heat of politics, character still mattered. And so, while America debated who won the exchange, the truth was clearer. This wasn't about winning or losing. It was about showing the country that there is strength not in insult, but in restraint. That sometimes the most powerful response is not to fight fire with fire, but to bring light into the smoke. By the end of it all, one thing was undeniable: John Kennedy's response hadn't just shocked America, it had inspired it.